Ladies and gentlemen, hello. We are going to be discussing today life after football. First person I'd like to introduce, Michael Owen, legendary former England international, Louis Saha, Manchester United, many other clubs, and another legendary French international. Michael, if I can start with you. Michael Owen management, there's a huge debate in the game about are the young players coming through. You obviously came through at a young age, Saint Etienne, we all remember that. But you're now, in your post-playing career, you're developing players and you're scouting younger players and trying to bring them through as well.
Yeah, that's right. I think when you play football, I think around, well, certainly for me, around halfway through my career, I started thinking about what I wanted to do after football. The inevitable things like management, television, coaching, they're what the majority of football players go into when they finish. And I think the television appealed to me. Football management, obviously, it's a 24/7 type of job. And with a young family, I didn't think that was going to be ideal for me. So I searched for some of the things that really interested me. And as you mentioned, one of the things that does interest me is the young players coming through, basically, how they're managed, how they're looked after, what the clubs do for them, what their agents do for them. And I decided that that was something that I wanted to go into. So along with the television, Michael Owen management is probably takes up most of my time. We look after a good quality group of players, predominantly from the Northwest. And it's going fantastically well, and our eldest lads are almost at an age now where they'll be making their league debuts, Premier League debuts or whatever in the coming year or so. So it's a really exciting time for us.
And what sort of clubs are they at? You say they're in the Northwest. Is it City, United?
That's it. We look after predominantly teams in the players from the Northwest. So Liverpool, Everton, Manchester United and Manchester City would be the teams that of the players that we look after. So yeah, we'd look after, about 20 odd players, varying in age. And as you say, some people, I'm glad you didn't mention the word agent in the when you were introducing it, because it's, even though it's that side of the game, it's more a case of looking after players in their entirety, and advising them on what to do. How are they going to make it? They've all got talent. How are they going to make it? What separates them from the rest of the lads in the academy, and how are we going to get them into a first team? What path are we going to take them on to actually get them into the first team? Because that's one of the hardest jobs. There's a lot of talented kids out there, but try stepping from under 21 football in the EPP that they have now straight into a first team. It's not so easy. So there's a few tricks of the trade, a few bits of experience that you need to know on how to make that leap.
We're seeing kids get paid huge sums at a young age. Is this right that you encourage them to sort of invest it sensibly, so they can have a third of it now to sort of spend as they want, a third of it to sort of to spend on sort of cars or car insurance, but a third also a trust fund for post playing?
Well, I think it's important that we all get introduced. When I first was coming through the Liverpool academy, I never wanted an agent. I never even thought about an agent. I thought my dad was perfectly capable of looking after me. Roy Evans, the manager at Liverpool at the time, when I was only 17, I was playing in the reserves. I'd only played about 3 or 4 games in the reserves, and he came up to me and he said, "You need an agent." And I was petrified, if I'm honest, because here's the Liverpool manager who you're going to take, whatever he says as gospel, telling me that I needed an agent. So I said, well, I thought my dad could do it, and he said, "You need an agent to look after you, blah, blah, blah." So I asked the club to provide a few examples for me to meet a few, and I also asked 1 or 2 players within the industry, 1 or 2 people within the industry to provide me with a similar thing. And I met a few people, and and obviously picked the person that I then went on to have a long relationship with. And that's how I see my business working in many ways. You look after young lads at a young age, 16, 17, 18, 19. These are the career-defining years of a football player. If you can break through from promising young kid into first team, then okay, whatever you do in your career, you know, you'll have highs and lows, but that will determine whether you're going to make it or not and at what level. So that's the bit we tend to focus on. And then, of course, you know, putting foundations in place for the future is really important from them, both financially. We all hear of shocking stories about what people have done when they retire from football, how they've wasted their money. And this is a really, you know, people look in, you know, and think, oh, footballers are on 10 grand a week, 20 grand, 100 grand a week, and they, you know, they think that, well, that's great, they're set up for life. But I retired at 33. You know, I got to the top of my profession and retired at 33. And if you haven't got something to wake up to in the morning, you can easily waste your money on, you know, different things. If you've not got the right people around you advising you that actually care for you as opposed to care for their own means, then I think you've got a chance. And that's certainly what I had, and that's something that I obviously want to, you know, help the next generation of young players with.
Louis, this is something you're doing as well. I mean, you wrote a blog in the Huffington Post on September the 8th in which basically Louis just sort of talked about his concerns for financial mismanagement of players, the fact that they get caught out by effectively con men, some of the players. And you came up with a very poignant line about halfway through the piece when you said, I find it slightly sad when I talk with ex-teammates because we're not simply talking about the great times we had on the pitch, we're also talking about the financial concerns that some of our playing friends have got into. Is it a big concern? And this is obviously something you've done in terms of setting up Axis Stars.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think when I realized that many issues was coming back, you know, story after stories, you know, players are complaining about maybe trusting the wrong people. You're starting to think that there is something to be done, and it's nice to see that I'm not alone. Like Michael is aware of that problem. What we address is like we have that mission in terms of like being a professional and trying to be as competitive as possible. You not focus on the management side. It's really hard. You have families, you have friends, you have all the distraction in the world already to really get focused on the stuff. So that part of being capable of trusting the people surrounding you, it's really hard because they're all kind of interest. You know, it's really difficult. So I thought that it will be very interesting to see players coming back and share their good moments, but their bad moments. That's where you can talk about recommendation, as you mentioned, maybe for a restaurant or any hotels. You know, the clients complain or just actually give a rate of his trip. So it's a great indication for youngsters in the case of sports to know exactly what type of management, what type of people you have to look to get around you. And that's what Axis Stars is all about. We just make sure that we bring all the tools together, we bring all the people together to make sure that all the information, when the parents, when an agent is looking for something specific, is inside. So it's all about my experience that I bring in terms of strategy and try to create something relevant. But it's all about like bringing that experience. I think Michael, what he's doing on his side in England is great. Should be done in Africa in particular, because the African players, they have difficulties to understand sometimes the tax issues, the culture, obviously how to manage the wealth when they get it. At some point, it's really hard when you earn 1,000 times more than your father. It's really hard to get advice from them. So it is very disturbing, and football in itself is really hard. Michael has a great career, up and downs. It can be injuries, can be many stuff that you have to be very strong in making the right choices. So that's why the advice is really important.
You experienced it yourself, didn't you? In terms of a bad financial advice. Yeah.
Yes, that's why I think it was a situation when you face someone who's telling you, oh, maybe you have a chance to save some kind of money or invest in some really nice technology, and you say, why not? Because you have the capability of doing it. And when you losing it in a easy way, and those names were along that project are big company, but they don't really care. They don't think that you have the guts to say to anybody, you know, go into the press and say, I've been playing around. There is no many players who's doing that, so they are unpunished, and they do it again and again and again. What I wanted to provide is some platform where obviously when something bad happened, you could tell other players or other sportsmen that it hasn't been done properly. So when a youngster is looking for a bank, an insurer, an agent, or even a personal trainer, the work has to be done properly because we are working for the elite, and it's just about to build idol. You know, Michael was an icon, travel everywhere in the world and known everywhere. And it's important, you know, you have to behave properly to make sure that youngsters are looking after him and try to do the same. So if we do bad management, do mistakes in terms of communication in the press, it is really bad. So that's what I created that when I finished because I think it was necessary.
You were in Mauritius recently, and you're obviously sort of very involved in it. How many players, young players, have you got getting involved and signing up for you? Yeah,
it's a bit a different world compared to Michael because I'm focused on bringing some pressure to the industry, and bringing pressure is you have two sides. It could be volume and it could be exclusivity. So it's more or less the big players I'm looking for, the big sportsmen, that they can be mentors. Mentors, it means that they can obviously help youngsters to make right choices. So that's why we kind of go to the process of doing the pilot phase, where we ask Didier Drogba, Gaël Monfils, you know, the Gary Nevilles, you know, all those players with massive values, you know, and dedication to give the feedback, to make sure that the platform is built in a way that it will really help the industry. We don't want to be here and disrupt anything if it's not relevant. So that's what the target is. So we have 100 plus members who is capable of being mentors to youngsters, and you have 100 plus companies who are here to provide services, advice on different topics.
I mean, it's fascinating to hear how former players are getting involved in so many different things. I mean, Michael, I think we've got some footage of M7 drones, which is a new project that you're involved in, a new business that you're involved in. I think, have we got the footage that we can show? Because it's quite fascinating. I mean, as a journalist who likes spying on England training, I can certainly see benefits. Have we got that anywhere? This is obviously Michael's stables, Manor House stables. There are drones appearing at some point. Well, those are the drones. Michael, from a sort of technical and tactical aspect, what does that provide for a coach? I mean, is that right? Thierry Henry was on one of his, I think he was on his pro license course down in Cardiff, and he said he just looked at a game completely differently when he saw it from up there.
Yeah, just to give everyone a bit of context to the pictures. Obviously, we spoke about what things football players do when they retire, and as I mentioned, Michael Owen management, my horse racing stables and my television work, they're the three things that I almost do a lot of time to. But there's also one or two other businesses that you like to invest in, and a good friend of mine introduced me to the drone technology, which is what you've seen. All those clips today were, or on that reel were from filmed from a drone. And yeah, I mean, I think it's becoming big in football now. As you mentioned, Thierry Henry doing his badges, he wants all his sessions filmed from above. Mark, who I work with at M7, is constantly at Finch Farm at Everton's training ground. Roberto Martinez wants all his sessions, tactical sessions, filmed from above. And as you can see from a couple of those short clips, you can really see the game from a different perspective. Managers always see from the sideline, from the dugout, and trying to. I mean, a lot of people wonder why managers go up into the stand. It's because you can get such a better picture of tactically where your men are and how things are going. Will you go one step further with a drone? And a lot of people, a lot of teams now are using this drone technology to go up and film training sessions. So then you can literally say to people, you're in this position, you should be covering the midfield player, whatever it might be. So it is another business that I've invested in, that I enjoy watching develop, and it really is getting some traction within the sporting world as well as normal everyday life. This
might be the mischievous journalist in me, but could clubs use them to go and film other clubs' training sessions?
I suppose so. I've never thought of it like that way, but as you say, you're mischievous, more mischievous than me. So,
well, we do have a bit of tradition with England of trying to spy on training, and I was up a tree in 2006 watching the players train, and in the tree next to me was, I think you played Paraguay, was it, or Ecuador in the first or second game, and there was someone from there. So spying does go on. I can see the advantages. How much are they? How much is a drone?
Well, I think a drone, I mean, it depends what quality that they want, but I mean, there's a stand outside M7 aerials. I think the basic ones are around 3,000 to 5,000, but it depends on the camera. But of course, M7 has all that technology, so it's a case of, I would suggest that they pay by the hour, Everton, but I don't think they'll be missing the money too much. But it's a great way of watching football, mainly tactically. To envisage where your players should be, where they're going. And as I say, down at Dragons Park, where we've been doing a lot of stuff down at the Welsh FA, people like Thierry Henry have been really using it to go and pass their next exams, their next badge to get their pro licence.
Management, you touched on this before, but management never appealed.
Management, all through my career, I thought when I finish, I want to go into management. I always thought I would, but then I got to about 27, 28, and I think when you're a player, Louis probably feel the same, when you get towards the end and you start thinking about potential management, you start looking at the coach, the manager, and dissecting what he does and how he does it, because you're actually thinking, envisaging you being in that hot seat in a few years, and you actually look at his role differently. As a kid, as a young player, I used to just listen to the manager and do as he says and all the rest of it. But then you start questioning him and you start looking at what he does and why he does it and start thinking about it. But the more and more I thought about it, the more and more I thought this is just really 24/7. I do wake up some mornings and think I'd love to have a crack at it, but I've got 4 children. You never know where your career is going to take you. Does that mean you have to uproot your family and all the things that you've set up? And I've got my stables, I've got my MOM business. It's, I think not.
Louis, do you ever think of management?
Yeah, it is pretty much the same. I was in that motion when you thinking about management, because I was injured a lot toward the end, and I say, oh, there's something that I want to address, my philosophy and all that. But as Michael mentioned straight away, it's more a job for someone who is like addicted. You need to have that kind of memory, to remember all the games. You have that quality in terms of implication, and I don't think that right now I've got that in me, because I was so much passionate about what I wanted to achieve as a businessman. I really want to change the way things have been running for over too many years, I think. So I can't have two passion. So yes, for sure, football will remain my main love, and looking at players, I see things that I don't like. I say there is something that could be done as well, so it's something maybe I will consider later.
So would you call them up? I mean, if someone a player that you knew who you felt was doing wrong and just need a little bit of fine-tuning, particularly as a striker, would you call them up and have you?
Yeah, that's the aim of a teammate, or I'm a supporter. I want to help. I want to see improvement. differently maybe than being a coach or an agent. It just being here and giving the right advice or put the right pressure. You know, when you're in competition, I've always been that kind of player around my teammates. I don't like to lose. I don't like people who wasting their talent because they're lazy. So that's about the stuff you want to address as a manager. So that kind of philosophy goes with tactics and learn the game. And that's for sure that you have to be trained and see if the qualities that you have is good enough.
How difficult it is, having been a sporting, competitive individual throughout your career, then when the whistle stops, when you're not going to games, when the adrenaline is there, how is it psychologically difficult to deal with?
It is really hard. I had that feeling as well when I was getting injured. I don't like it, you know, when you're not capable of, you know, enter the pitch. It's something like you can't explain. I think people don't understand that. And what happened, it is the same when you decide to finish and say you're not going to go on Monday to any training pitch. This is like a little death, you know, really it is hard. And even if I don't like to run that much, I don't like the hard session and that, it's all about the competition, you know, that adrenaline, as you mentioned, the competitiveness, you know, to make sure that you get still your place before someone else and you get maybe scoring goals. And this is like the thing that you really dream every day. I was like a kid, like, wasn't thinking about money. I wasn't aware of it at the time. It came along and it was really nice, but it was more the competition, that drive never left me. And obviously when I had that kind of project in my head, it was too big to be doing two things at the same time. That's why I maybe not score that many goals at the end.
You came out with a tweet recently about, in which you said, and I think you posted a picture, always on the move, but family first and family last. Do you feel, having finished playing, that you almost have a duty to spend more time with your family? And is that one of the joys of retirement?
You know, you're actually pointing something very, very important. You know, we may forget a lot of time to mention the family. So many fans think that we are just footballers. We don't represent a normal life, you know, because of whatever privilege that we have. So we forget that maybe sometimes families suffer for that. You know, I've been putting my family away from their own family because I've got parents, they got parents, my wife had parents. So it was a pretty hard setup. So that kind of distraction and things, it's really important to make your own choice when you decide to finish your career, what you want. You know, if it's traveling or doing all that kind of a duty in terms of planning and all that, you were a player, you had to go along with the team. But as a manager, it's even worse. So that kind of choices is really, really important. And it is really hard as well during that period where you finish football, you don't have the same obligation, and sometimes you may stay at home, maybe looking at what I do today. So that all in your psychological setup it's really, really hard to control, and you may end up like with issue with the family.
That happens. I mean, I assume some players mourn for their career because they loved it so much and they haven't got it now. Can that create problems within the family?
Yes, I'm actually in it right now, so it's not easy because it's a setup of traveling and not being at home, not being capable of like making the sacrifice in a way, because you made another choice. You made another choice and you may pay for it because, family is not for granted. You have to take care of them and all that. So it's an issue for many players when they finish. They have to really be careful. There is like numbers, that's why I was really passionate about it. It's like 50% of players going bankrupt after 3 or 4 years of the career, and it could be one of the problem, the misses going away. You know, it's like you have some kind of split, you know, in terms of financial, and it's not easy to cope. If you have invested in a few businesses, if you have maybe make some mistakes, you know, or you have addiction like gambling or anything like this, I think think it can put you in a really bad position really fast, even if you earn 100K.
How are the clubs and the Professional Footballers Association with a player who retires? Do they give, not counselling, but they give advice on these are the problems? You know, there might be depression, there might be financial issues, you might split from your wife or partner.
Yeah, you have it, I think in the PFA they're doing some good job, but as the life is a bit modern now, it's all about being on social media, you know, it's all about telephones. Pretty much everybody, if you look at it, at dinner they have their phones on hand, you know, it's all about that. So it's a great tool to use to make sure that players have the good communication, the good information. And you have to find a way to make sure that it's not about prevention only. You have to give them tools to understand, to control a bit more their life and afterlife, I mean like after career, because it's not easy to ask someone to think about after career. It's even not possible because you love so much what you're doing, you don't want to think about stopping, you don't think that it will stop ever, you don't understand that maybe the money will go from 100K a month or 100K a month to minus 20K. You know, you have spending, you have to mortgages, you have, you know, lifestyle, you have all that things that you have to really understand. And when you have a salary, it's all fine. You don't feel it. You know, you always think, as I said, the distribution of like earning 100 times more than your parents. You think that, oh, I will be fine, and I have time to turn back and find solution. But it's not true. It's fast.
Yeah. Michael, you've got 4 busy kids. Have you got an opportunity to go and see them play football, do their dressage?
Yeah, I think Louis makes some really good points, and that, you know, we can sit here and it might sound like you're complaining about being a footballer. Far from it. We think that we've been blessed in many ways to have the careers that we've had and to have gained the rewards, but it's such a unique career. It's such a dangerous career. I mean, I retired at 33 years of age. I mean, you're not even hopefully halfway through your life, and your earning just stops at once, and all the things that you've built up. And so you can totally understand why, even if you plan really, really well, that people can come into difficulty at a later age. And that's barring the fact some of the disasters that Louis refers to. But I think it's important to get that balance. As you say, I've got 4 children. But I always, when I finish football, I always wanted to wake up and think, I've got something to do. You know, I'm active. It's not, oh, shall I play golf today or shall I do this today? It's all very easy to do that for a few months, but I think you'd end up going a little bit stir crazy in the end. So I wanted to put things in place that every day I woke up thinking I've got a purpose for life. You know, yes, I spend more time with the family, but I've got other things to keep me occupied as well. So I think that's important. And the people that don't have that, I think they're you know, some of the sad stories that we hear and read about have turned into whatever they might turn to, different addictions or depression or whatever it might be. Because, you know, you don't only stop working at 33 from a footballer's point of view or from my point of view, but all those things that you've done for all your life, you know, the adrenaline rushes that you get. I score a goal and I mean, I can't explain the feeling. You know, I've almost forgotten what it feels like now because it's been so long, but I can never ever replace what I've done now. You know, I can enjoy my horses, I can enjoy my kids, but scoring a goal and feeling that feeling, I'm never going to replace that. So unless I'm busy and I'm occupied, then, you know, that's one way of almost trying to, you know, push it to the distance, because it is a precarious position when you retire.
But when you see footage of Saint Etienne and that goal, do you wish that you could rewind the years, or do you just cherish that moment?
Yeah, no, the best years of your life are when you're on top of your game, when you're playing really well, you know, when you feel as if you're at the top of your profession, absolutely. But you've got to come to a realisation at some point as well, and mine was, as I say, at 33 years of age, I didn't think I could do it as well as I used to. So it's time to retire, but time to retire with something to do and not be, you know, one of these old pros that sit there watching all the tapes of when he used to be good and telling your kids that I used to be able to do this and that. I think you've got to live another life, and you've got to get out there, and it might not be as exciting as your first one, but you've got to make it, you know, you've got to make it important to you. Otherwise you will, as I say, you'll go off the rails in some way, shape or form, and we see it happening ex-players that we've played with. It's a precarious position, as I say.
But you're tough mentally. But that's quite a thing to deal with. That in a way, the most golden moment of your life, the one you're going to be most associated with. You were a teenager when it happened.
Yeah, it's we all peak at certain times in our career, don't we? And I was at my peak early on in my career. Obviously, injuries then played a part in me that curtailed my career. But yeah, it seems a long time ago now, and even some of the lads in Michael Owen management that I look after, you know, and when you try to tell them this is how you score a goal, they say, well, I wasn't even born when you scored that, so it's pretty embarrassing. But yeah, it was a long time ago, but always fun to look back on it. You
mentioned the family. You put out a sort of fairly poignant tweet the other day, which I think every sort of parent will echo with, that, you know, unless you've got stroppy kids. But you said kids go back to school today, a bit depressing. I mean, you're obviously very close to your family, but is there that joy of having the summer with them and being able to spend the time? Is that the sort of flip side of the situation? Because I can remember you had tournament after tournament every summer.
Yeah, it was the most amazing summer I've had this year. It was the first summer I've had really that, you know, I've managed to spend entirely with my family. And as you mentioned, I went through, you know, year on year on year being a professional footballer, and your family get pushed to the side in many ways. So it was the first time that I've managed to spend 8 weeks with my family, with the kids that have been off school. And listen, I'm in a really fortunate position that I can do that. A lot of parents are obviously at work and whatever. So it was really important, really nice of me for me to be around my kids for a few weeks. And it was actually sad having to send them back to school, because it's been the first summer really in my life whereby I've had it all to myself, having no real obligations to play in a tournament or to do commentating a tournament or whatever it might be. So it was a brilliant summer.
Yeah. Louis, you tweet a lot. You're quite, well, you're very philosophical on Twitter. You always were saying be positive, be fair. Is that something you see? I mean, why do you do that? Is that because this is your approach to life? You want to engage with people?
I think that I was like very protective at first. You know, I wasn't really a big fan of Twitter. I think the first time I see it, it was Rio Ferdinand in the dressing room was like taking pictures and just sending it, and we find out the next day, and I was like, oh, it's a bit intimate, you know, in a way, and I couldn't understand why he was doing it. Then I really understand that interaction that he's getting from the fans, and maybe the information he was like getting from maybe a different business side, you know, and I really find a way of like getting as well a good feel of on which industry I was, because talking to fans, you understand the anger, you understand, from Twitter you can now. You can obviously understand the pressure a bit more. I was feeling it a bit when you can see the passion, and that's where I started to be a bit more trying to calm them down and try to explain them how I feel, who I was as a human being, and stuff like this, you know, because I don't like the cliche, the stuff that we are footballers, we are here only to kick a ball. I've got family, I've got kids, you know, I love them to bits, and you have to understand that I'm going to do everything to protect them, you know, from now being a footballer and after. So it's all about communication, and I think the best tool to educate is to communicate properly. So that's why I always try to pick my word the best way possible. So you have to, when you use Twitter, because it's only 140 characters. So it's all about that I try to use with a social network, and that's what I do now with Axis Stars, and make sure that the players who understood properly the industry have the information. They can have like different players who can be look after, you know, in a way that I'm looking at Didier Drogba, I'm from Ivory Coast. Yes, it's a type of people that he can understand where I'm from. Maybe you can have the information that I'm looking for. So that's the type of communication that we try to drive inside the platform.
Do you think it can help, actually, I mean, everyone sort of talks about it's a sort of viper's nest Twitter, but do you think it actually can help break down barriers, that you can communicate?
Yes, yeah, definitely, because when you look at maybe even the press could say today that maybe so many players are now not saying much. you know, the way you talk to the press is like a bit, I would say, like very polished, very nice to not being hit back, you know. So it's not the proper information that you get, and so maybe trying to find a way to re-establish a confidence atmosphere inside that sport is it's relevant. It's really important because we're starting to be a bit more flat. I don't like to say that because now I'm looking at it in a way that I can judge or say this is bad or this is good. But I think it's the way of changing things the right way. And then I see it as when you look at players now, looking at social media to gather information, how good they look, you know, on videos, you know, because they don't skills more than scoring goals. It is sad. I see it. I say this is not the purpose of social media. If it's to put a video back on wine or whatever, and it's all about skills. When you have passed the ball back, you know, and it doesn't produce anything. Sorry, this is not my generation. I didn't understand that. It was all about scoring goals, and I think Michael was a killer at that. It's you look at your game and look at how you can do the most effective run possible to get in that box, and that's it. And now it's a bit more disruptive with the kind of interaction of skills and being looking good and how many fans I have and all that. It's a bit dangerous.
Michael, you use Twitter a lot, but you mainly focus it on your views of games like Manchester United against Bruges, results like that. You're quite sort of opinionated on it. Do you enjoy that element to it, actually sort of appraising a game very quickly or even while it's going on?
Yeah, I do. I enjoy social media. I must admit, I think, you know, you've got to be thick-skinned, you've got to take it for what it is, and you've got to understand what it is if you're going to venture onto it in the first place. So, and you've got to be careful what you say a lot of the time. But I think if you're talking about football, the majority of people that would follow myself, Louis, yourself in many ways, are football fans because they want your opinion on football. So I think it's important to engage with them, and you've got to take a lot of the criticism with a pinch of salt as well. I mean, however many followers you've probably got 2 or 3% that are going to be anti yourself or want to, write certain things. But I think you've just got to understand that the majority are actually following you for the right reasons and want your opinion and all the rest of it and want to engage. So I think it's an important tool nowadays when fans want to get close to the action. We're in an age now where people understand far more about football. You know, they can go on the internet and pick up a paper or whatever, and we're talking about systems, we're talking about real intricacies of play. We're talking, you can almost write messages to your heroes and you can hear what they've got to say. So I think we're in this space now, we're in this day and age, and I think you've got to embrace that.
Yeah. Do you block anyone?
I went through a little patch about 2 years ago. I think I blocked about 10 people who were pretty nasty, but then I thought, sorry, there's too many to block, so I thought I'll leave it.
Yeah, well, we won't block you. So if we've got any questions to Michael and Louis on life after football, do we have the microphones around? I hope we do. Any questions? Anyone out there? Gentleman there, the stripy tie.
Hi, thanks for a very enlightening talk. My name is Sean Cottrell from Law in Sport. I wondered, from your experience, you said that later on in your career, you were sort of looking at the manager's role. As you've now got other business ventures, what role do you think the clubs could take and their sponsors in creating sort of apprenticeship schemes or avenues for former players to get involved with to develop other career paths?
Well, I think that's a very good point. I think clubs and, we mentioned the PFA before as well. I think that, when you see so many issues after football for football players, and don't forget that we're talking about, kids. We were talking earlier about kids coming through, and you go to an academy and there's hundreds of kids, and really, 1 or 2 might make the first team of that particular club, and then maybe 5 or 6 might have a career further down. But you're talking, loads and loads of players that actually drop out the game, and then what? They're told that they're not good enough and they're not needed anymore, and that's a problem. There's so many jobs within football. There's so many jobs out there in general. And I think we could all, you know, clubs and authorities could do an awful lot for catering for those people that are maybe dropping out the game. So, and it's something that obviously Louis got a passion for as well. So, it's you know, I can only talk in many ways for the lads that I look after, and I'd like to think if the odd one of those aren't going to make it as a football player, then we'll stick with them through thick and thin in many ways, and hopefully find a career path for them and let them get on with life after that. But I think it's important that if you're going to take on the role of you know, trying to get these kids to where you want, then if they fail at the last hurdle or whatever, then you've invested all that time and effort, and so have they. Then I think you've got a responsibility as well to then obviously provide them with something to fall back on, because there's a lot of sacrifices in trying to make it as a football player.
Louis?
I would say exactly the same. Yeah, what I see is like I'm very passionate, as Michael mentioned. It's something that I'm asking right now to federation. I'm asking to clubs. I'm asking to the syndicate, you know, FIFA Pro or whatever, to really create that platform where it is possible to feel more supported. There is too many stories that is being repeated over the years, and it is not normal. I will say that you can't accept that so many youngsters or so many people are making the same mistakes. So there is something to be addressed, and there are the people who are in power who should do that, not me with my experience or any engineer. It's all about the people who are really in love with that sport, who should do the stuff even. Not only for, because I understand it's a business world. You know, you have to make that competition loved in many ways to make sure that you get you get the finance right. I'm fine with that, but you have to really address. There is so many youngsters who are here to be idols. You know, to be like models for youngsters who have no chance, who have no life, no. So this is hope that we're building in front of them. So we need to really teach our sportsmen how to behave on the field, and this is a platform that we are trying to create. And I think I'm asking everyone here to really help any companies who's doing the same.
You mentioned people in power. You got involved on social media on the FIFA presidential debate. I mean, you have those strong opinions now. 2-3 years ago when you were playing, you presumably had the same strong opinions. Did clubs say, don't tweet about sort of political things?
Yeah, I think they advise, the PR companies, they will advise you to make sure that you don't enter this because it's embarrassing or disruptive or whatever. It's obvious that press will jump on it. And if you are playing a game, and a very important game every week, you should not do that. But right now, I stopped, and I think I've got that mission, and everybody who have like experience should join and say, yes, this is wrong. This is not fair. This is not going towards the fan, towards the players, towards the clubs.
Well, the whole corruption and yeah, right.
It's horrendous. The image, I was like, not maybe a few, but I was maybe not many was there and just stand and say this is not normal. We should like really be against that, because the sport is a beauty, and there is so many values inside. I'm very passionate on anything. I'm not a fighter. I'm just like, I don't let myself down to an image where it's normal. I don't like that. It's not because I was a player. Maybe it was not possible to fight it because I have other things to do. But now, yes, I'm strong enough to say things that I really believe in.
With your strong beliefs and your experience in the game, would you ever consider standing, whether working with the French Federation or the English FA or UEFA or FIFA?
It is not. I'm not a political guy. I'm just here to make sure that I can help as much as I can. It's not to run things. I'm not like here to force in a wrong way. I have ideas, strong ideas, and it could be racism. It could be anything that I think that society needs. We ask transparency right now. It's not only for football, it's for banking, it's for anything. So everyone is asking the same. So why football will be slower in that process? I don't know why.
Good answer. Questions? Any more questions? Gentleman over there in the light jacket.
Thanks for the talk, Michael and Louis. My name's Paul Arnold from Network 90. Michael, you touched earlier on the importance of agents earlier in your life. Whenever Roy mentioned you should go out and get one. With the increased technology these days, the microscope always on the professional players, can you see the role of agents or management companies changing?
Well, yeah, I think over the years, I mean, an agent as you know, the general view is that an agent turns up when there's a deal to be had. I know football players that you know, friends of mine that basically didn't speak to their agents for 2 or 3 years, and then you know, they were coming to the end of their contract, or the manager said, we want to sign you on a new contract, or you know, there was a potential move, and they just phone their agent up and say, I need you now. And that's, you know, I just couldn't believe it, because the relationship I had with my agent was one that I spoke to him, you know, virtually every week. He would watch me play. He would, you know, we'd almost be good friends, as well as someone that would advise me. And you know, it was one of the best decisions I made in my career, I think, was to join forces with my agent at the start, because he was one of the good guys in the industry. And I think in the industry, like in any industry, there's some good and some bad, and you know, everyone gets tarnished with probably the same bad brush, but there are some good people out there that are trying to make things work. How it's going to change in the future, FIFA are obviously you know, have tweaked a few of the rules just recently in terms of how to represent, who to represent, etc., etc. But I think in general, it's always going to fall down to the player to make a decision in terms of who's going to look after him. And you know, unfortunately, we're asking young lads, maybe 15, 16, 17, to make that decision at such a young age, when they really aren't, in some cases, too capable of making an informed decision. It's a huge danger in our game, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to set up my business, because you know, you can see a lot of wastage of real talented players because they fall into the wrong type of hands. And it's but I don't see how anyone can do anything about who you start associating yourself with at the start. After that, then there's rules and regulations and all the rest of it that everyone's got to adhere to. But it's hard to know how it will change over the years, really. I mean, there's certainly, through social media, there's been a different way of some people attracting different young players, obviously tweeting them, following them on Facebook or whatever else they do. Obviously, myself and my business like to go through the front door of every single football team. If I identify a 16-year-old that I think is really talented, then the first thing I'll do is go through the front door of a Manchester City, a Liverpool, whoever it might be, and say, here's my, you know, I'm registering my interest in your player, and can you pass this registration or this interest on to family, parents and player themselves, and then you respect their decision. But how the world of agency is going to go in the future is an interesting one. I wouldn't like to guess, but it's a precarious industry, let's say that, and it's really important to get the right advice from an early age.
Louis, did you have the right agent at the right points?
I just want to jump back on the question, because this is important. I think we did find some kind of solution to change it. What the platform does is actually that. It's to provide the right advice. So if some agent is relevant and is good and is been legitimate by others, is been recommended by, it allowed a young player, 17, 18, to go on that platform and knows from kind of recommendation on the profile, as you can see on LinkedIn or whatever, that is all right. He's been recommended by Michael Owen, done such a great job. So it's Michael Owen, it's Didier Drogba, has worked with him, I think I can have a go.
Yeah.
So that's what a platform with exclusivity can bring. It's like answers. It's not about just changing and force people to work better, to work in a better way, but it's just to give information. As I said, it's like so many times I've done something really good, investment, buying a house and stuff, and I said it really well. How I do it, I don't give. I don't give the solution. It's like being a cooker, and you don't give the recipes. You know, you keep it for yourself and you make sure that you're doing your stuff. And this is not our philosophy here.
You share the recipe.
Yes, we make sure that, yes, if I made a mistake, you know, I say, oh, I didn't pick the right guy. I'm not going to say, oh, he's bad, but he won't have my recommendation, that's for sure. So the platform bring that. Youngsters, when they will come and they have enough mentors inside the platform, they will be able to really see who is good on any industry. Could be insurance, could be banking, it could be personal trainers, as I said. Anything relevant for a career of a player will have that kind of chance to raise their profile. So it's already a good answer for the agent world, because when an agent now don't have any license, Michael didn't mention what changed. It is really important. It is sad to see that FIFA arrived at some point and say, I don't want to be involved in that anymore because there is too many problems. Basically, they sued every time. They didn't cover the contract properly. So we come in and explain and give a way for the agent, obviously, to look legitimate in this way, because I've been working with such player. I've been not walking in a bar and pretend that I see a few players coming in my bar drinking beers and say I know them, and I become an agent and do some research around the field. You know, it's dangerous. So that's why you have to change.
Yeah. We've got to wrap it up now. One final question for Michael. Brown Panther, big weekend, Irish St Ledger.
Yeah.
Prospects?
Yeah, he's, again, going back to, that was one of the things that I set up during my career, because I thought it was something that I was going to be interested in for the rest of my life, which it is, and I think he's one of the most famous horses around now. We've been so lucky to train him. I bred him as a baby, and he's been a superstar. So he got injured. He's been such a sound horse. He got injured earlier on in the season when coming second at York, and he's making his return in Ireland on Sunday. He's in good form. So, but I'm not going to tell you to bet him because people will be chasing me for the money back if he doesn't win. But he's in good form, and yeah, I'll be over in Ireland supporting him on Sunday.
Good luck.
Thank
Ladies
you.
and gentlemen, we certainly had two thoroughbreds here, so thank you very much. Michael Owen Louis Saha.